had spent her whole life trying to keep the peace, even when it hurt her. One calm morning at Heartland, a single message from her mother pushed her too far. Instead of staying silent like always, Amy made a choice that shocked everyone around her. This was the moment she stopped shrinking and finally stood up for herself. Morning came in soft and cold, but Amy's chest felt tight like a storm was trapped inside. She had already fed the horses, checked the tack, and walked the fence line twice, not because it needed it, but because moving kept her from thinking. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from her mother, short, neat, the kind that looked polite to anyone else, but to Amy it sounded like a hand on her throat. A reminder that Amy's life was still being judged, still being measured, still being corrected. Amy told herself she could ignore it. She had ignored it for years. Every time her mother hinted that Amy was too emotional, that she was wasting her talent, that she needed to get serious and stop living in the past. Every time Amy tried to explain, the answer was the same: a sigh, a cold smile, and a new list of things Amy should do better. The worst part was how quickly Amy would start doubting herself, like her mother's voice was louder than her own. In the kitchen, Lou was pouring coffee when Amy walked in. Lou looked up and paused, noticing the way Amy's hands were shaking. She asked if Amy was okay, not pushing, just asking softly. Amy tried to smile, but it did not last. She placed her phone face down on the counter. As if hiding it could stop the words already stuck in her head, Lou asked if it was their mom again. Amy did not answer right away. She stared at the wooden counter and remembered the last visit. Her mother had arrived with gifts and kind words, then slowly started pointing out everything Amy was doing wrong. It always happened that way: praise first, then pressure. Her mother would say Amy was amazing with horses, then ask why she was still wasting her life at Heartland. As if the ranch was holding her back instead of holding her together. Amy finally spoke and said her mother wanted to come that day because she was worried. Lou understood right away. Worried sounded caring, but Amy knew it meant control. Lou told Amy she did not have to do this if it was hurting her. That word hit hard: hurting. Amy had spent years calling it stress or family issues, anything but the truth. Amy looked out the window at the open fields and felt something shift inside her. Heartland was not the cage. The fear she carried was. Later in the barn, she rested her head against Spartan's neck and let herself breathe. She remembered trying to be easy as a child, trying not to disappoint, learning that love came with rules. A truck rolled into the driveway. Amy heard the gravel crunch and felt the old panic rise. This time, she did not run. She stepped forward, knowing one thing for sure: if control came wrapped in kindness, she would not accept it anymore. Her heart raced, but her voice finally felt like hers. Naomi stood near the barn door as her mother stepped out of the car, wearing the same calm smile she always did, the kind that made everything feel normal on the surface. She walked toward Amy with open arms, talking about the drive, the weather, and how worried she had been lately. Amy listened without interrupting, but something was different this time. Her chest still felt tight, but her feet did not move back. She stayed right where she was, grounded, steady, and aware of every word being said to her. As they walked inside, her mother's tone slowly shifted. It always happened in small ways: a comment about Amy looking tired, a question about whether the ranch was still paying enough, a quiet suggestion that maybe it was time to think about a real future. Each sentence landed like a familiar weight, heavy but carefully placed. In the past, Amy would not explain or apologize. Today, she did none of that. She let the words hang in the air, refusing to carry them for her mother. They sat at the kitchen table, sunlight falling across the worn wood. Her mother reached for Amy's hand and squeezed it, saying she only wanted what was best. Amy looked at that hand and remembered how many times those same words had been used to silence her feelings. She gently pulled her hand back. Her mother frowned, surprised by the small act. Amy's heart raced, but she did not look away. She said she was tired of being told what her life should look like. Her mother laughed softly at first, as if Amy was joking. She said Amy was too sensitive and always took things the wrong way. That was the moment Amy felt the line snap inside her. She spoke clearly and slowly, saying she knew exactly what she heard, and she knew how it made her feel. She said feeling small was not love, and constant pressure was not care. The room went quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every breath loud. Her mother's face hardened. She said Amy was being dramatic and ungrateful, that everything she did was for Amy's own good. Amy felt the old guilt try to crawl back in, the voice telling her to stop before things got worse. Instead, she stayed calm. She said being grateful did not mean staying silent, and being a daughter did not mean giving up her voice. For the first time, she did not soften her words to protect her mother's feelings. Lou stood nearby, listening, unsure whether to step in. Jack watched from a distance, his expression serious but supportive. Amy noticed them, but this moment was not about the family. It was about the space between her and her mother. Amy said she loved her, but love did not mean control. She said she needed respect, not advice she never asked for. Each sentence felt like stepping into open air after being trapped underwater. Her mother stood up abruptly, pacing the room, saying she never raised Amy to talk back like this. Amy answered quietly that she was not talking back. She was finally talking at all. That stopped her mother in her tracks. The words hung heavy, undeniable. Amy's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. She said she would no longer accept visits that left her feeling broken and judged. The room felt smaller, like the walls were closing in on old habits. Her mother stared at her, searching for the daughter who used to back down. She did not find her. Amy felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. This was not weakness. This was clarity. She said if things did not change, she would take space, no matter how hard it was. Silence followed, thick and uncomfortable. Her mother grabbed her purse, clearly shaken, and said she needed time to think. Amy nodded, knowing that was not an apology, but it was something new. As the door closed, Amy leaned against the counter, feeling both exhausted and strangely light. She knew the hardest part was not over, but for the first time, she had chosen herself. The house stayed quiet long after the door closed behind her mother. Amy remained where she was, listening to the silence settle like dust after a storm. Her legs felt weak, and she slowly slid into a chair at the kitchen table. This was usually the moment when regret came rushing in, when she would replay every word and wonder if she had gone too far. But instead of panic, she felt something unfamiliar, space. For the first time, there was room for her own thoughts without someone correcting them. Lou finally broke the silence, asking if Amy was okay. Amy nodded, though she was not sure what okay even meant anymore. Jack came closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. He did not say much, just told her he was proud of her for speaking her truth. That simple sentence made Amy's throat tighten. She had spent so long feeling like her voice was a problem. Hearing someone respect it changed everything. Later that afternoon, Amy walked out to the pasture alone. The horses grazed peacefully, unaware of the shift happening inside her. She thought about how often she had tried to earn approval by staying quiet, by bending herself into whatever shape made others comfortable. It never worked. No matter how much she gave, it was never enough. Standing there, she realized something painful but freeing. The problem was not her strength. The problem was that others had learned to benefit from her silence. Her phone buzzed again. A message from her mother. Amy did not open it right away. She stared at the screen, heart pounding, knowing this was the moment that would define everything. In the past, she would rush to reply, to fix things, to apologize, even when she had done nothing wrong. This time, she locked the phone and slid it into her pocket, not as punishment, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. As evening came, Amy packed a small bag and moved some of her things into the loft space above the barn. It was not running away. It was choosing peace. The loft had always been quiet, filled with soft light and the smell of hay sitting there. She felt closer to herself than she had in years. She knew her mother would see this as rejection, but Amy finally understood something important. Protecting yourself is not the same as pushing someone away. That night, Amy wrote a message she never sent. She poured out everything she had held back for years, the guilt, the pressure, the fear of never being enough. When she finished, she deleted it. She did not need to explain herself again. Her actions would speak louder than words. From now on, boundaries would be her language. The next morning, Amy woke early and rode out before sunrise. The air was cold and clear, and each breath felt grounding. As she rode, she thought about her future, not the version others wanted for her, but the one she wanted for herself. She realized she did not need approval to be whole. She needed honesty with herself first. When she returned, Lou was waiting with coffee and a quiet smile. No questions, no pressure, just support. Amy felt grateful, but more than that, she felt strong. The family would adjust, or they wouldn't. Either way, Amy was done shrinking to make others comfortable. By choosing distance, Amy had not lost her family. She had found herself, and deep down, she knew this decision would change everything. Whether her mother was ready for it or not, the days that followed carried a strange mix of calm and tension. On the surface, life at Heartland went on as usual. Horses needed care, fences needed fixing, and the ranch still woke up early every morning. But underneath it all, something had shifted. Amy felt it in the way people looked at her, careful but respectful, as if they knew she had crossed a line that could not be UNCRSSED. Lou tried to act normal, but her concern showed in small ways. She brought Amy extra coffee, checked in more often, and asked gentle questions without pushing. Jack stayed quiet, watching closely, trusting Amy to find her own balance. No one mentioned their mother, but her absence felt loud. It hung in the air, filling rooms without ever stepping inside them. A few days later, the phone rang. Amy saw her mother's name on the screen and felt her stomach tighten. For a moment, she considered letting it go to voicemail, but this time she answered. Her mother's voice sounded controlled, measured, as if every word had been carefully chosen. She said she had been thinking a lot. She said Amy's words hurt her deeply. Not once did she ask how Amy was feeling. Amy listened without interrupting. She noticed how the conversation circled around her mother's pain, her shock, her disappointment. When there was a pause, Amy spoke calmly. She said she understood her mother was hurt, but she was hurt too, and that pain had been ignored for years. She said she was not asking for permission anymore. She was asking for respect. The silence on the other end was long. Her mother finally said she did not recognize this version of Amy. Amy answered honestly that this version had always been there, just quiet. Her mother warned her that distance could damage their relationship forever. Amy replied that the relationship was already damaged, and pretending otherwise was only making it worse. When the call ended, Amy felt drained, but she did not feel weak. She had not raised her voice. She had not apologized for existing. That alone felt like progress. Still, guilt crept in during the quiet moments, especially at night. She wondered if she was being selfish, if standing her ground meant losing someone forever. Then she remembered how heavy she used to feel after every visit, every call, every unspoken rule. That weight was gone now. Her mother tried reaching out again, sending messages filled with advice disguised as concern. Amy read them once, then chose not to reply. Not because she did not care, but because she was learning when silence was healthier than explanation. Each ignored message felt like choosing herself all over again. The family dynamic continued to adjust. Lou admitted it was hard watching their mother struggle, but she also admitted Amy looked lighter. Jack reminded them that growth often makes people uncomfortable, especially those who benefited from things staying the same. Hearing that helped Amy release some of the guilt she carried. One afternoon, Amy caught her reflection in the barn mirror and barely recognized herself. Her shoulders were no longer tense, her eyes looked steady. She was still sensitive, still caring, but she was no longer afraid of her own strength. The fallout was real, and it hurt. But it was honest, and for the first time, honesty felt safer. Then silence. Amy knew the road ahead would not be easy. Healing never was, but she also knew she could not go back. Whatever came next, she would face it as herself, not the version shaped by someone else's expectations. Time did not fix everything, but it changed how Amy carried things. Weeks passed, and the sharp edge of the conflict slowly dulled. The ranch settled into a new rhythm, one that felt quieter but more honest. Amy found herself breathing easier, moving through her days without the constant fear of disappointing someone who was never satisfied to begin with. For the first time in a long while, her choices felt like her own. Amy began setting small but clear boundaries. She decided when she would answer calls, when she would visit, and when she would say no, without explaining herself. Each boundary felt uncomfortable at first, like wearing new boots that needed time to break in. But with every step, her confidence grew. She realized that protecting her peace did not make her cold. It made her steady. At Heartland, Amy poured her energy into her work with the horses. She took on tougher cases, horses that others had given up on. There was something healing about earning trust slowly, without force or fear. She saw herself in them. Animals that had been controlled or misunderstood did not need pressure. They needed patience and safety. In helping them heal, Amy was quietly healing herself too. Her relationship with Lou shifted as well. They talked more openly, not just about their mother, but about their fears, regrets, and the weight of always being strong for others. Lou admitted she had spent years trying to keep everyone together, even when it meant ignoring pain. Amy understood that now. They promised each other they would not repeat old patterns. One evening, Amy received a short message from her mother. It was not an apology, but it was different. There were no instructions, no hidden pressure, just a simple note saying she missed her. Amy sat with it for a long time. She did not rush to respond. She understood that real change would take time, and maybe it would never fully come, but she also knew she could choose how close she let someone stand. Amy replied with a kind but firm message. She said she missed her too, but things had to be different moving forward. No control, no guilt, no fear. If those lines were crossed, she would step back again. Sending that message felt like closing a door gently, not slamming it shut, but making sure it stayed on its hinges. As the sun set over Heartland, Amy stood by the fence, watching the land she loved glow in soft light. This place had always been her anchor, but now it felt like her future too. She was no longer trying to prove herself to anyone. She was building a life that felt safe, honest, and strong. Amy knew her journey was not over. There would be setbacks, hard conversations, and moments of doubt. But she also knew one thing with certainty. She would never again trade her voice for peace that only existed on the surface. This was her life now, and she was finally living it on her own terms.